testing, 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 testing.
So this is David Weeks, who does he's our producer, director.
Let's hear it for David, yay!
Who is that guy who used to stand at the lectern on the Johnny Carson show? Remember him, the producer? That's David. What was his name? Freddie DeCorb, everybody. But David's probably the one person missing. You're missing the association, right? He's too young. Huh? He's far too young. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom. We actually are on the air, so we don't want to confuse people at home too much. A couple of program notes for tonight and the weeks to come. Next week we will be hearing from Senator and President pro tempore of the Michigan State Senate, Jeremy Moss, who will be here to talk to us about what's going on in Lansing. Michael Ross arranged that for us, and thanks to him. The following week, and this was thanks to Carolyn Lowe, we will be hearing from some people at a teacher and hopefully a couple of students who survived Oxford's shooting. And the reason that they're coming, of course, is to talk about their legislative efforts and their lobbying. In fact, the teacher has become full-time in this regard to, produce some gun safety laws, things that really fall well within anybody's interpretation of what the Second Amendment says. As I recall, I read that Scalia decision in depth, and he said it was okay to have locks on guns. And then the following week, we're not going to have a regular Friday night dinner. We're going to show a movie at 6 o'clock. It's not an entertaining movie, unfortunately. It's a movie called The Settlers. And given what's happening in Israel right now, I think it's a good idea for us to understand the origins of this group. They were not there in any real sense at the founding of Israel, and they didn't begin to emerge until the late 60s, really the early 70s. And have now, as you can see, basically taken over the state of Israel. So this is a not terribly old documentary. We're going to do it at 6 o'clock. We'll serve pizza and salad. That's on the house. And so we'll have something to eat while we watch this movie. That is on. It's all in the newsletter, but I think it's August the 11th. I think it's August the 11th. And then, you know, we're creeping into the high holiday period already, so we watch your calendars very closely. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening. And if you know any kids, and I'll be talking about Spinoza when I make my remarks later, know any young families, we have plenty of room in Spinoza, even though it has been growing. So tonight our readers are, sorry, I turned the page too soon, Suzanne Paul, Lonnie Fleischer, Sheila Glass, Fran Shore and Barbara Logan, Charlie Paul, Kathy Radner, and Richard McMains. And our candles, I would like to invite up after we finish the first slide. I always do this too early. After the first slide, I'll be inviting Charlie and Suzanne to light our Shabbat candles. Arthur, if you will.
Oh, wait, before that, we have another announcement.
Oh, your concert.
We have another announcement. Our wonderful rabbi is celebrating 10 years right here. So we're going to sing happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the employment.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
To you. Happy anniversary to you. Happy anniversary, Rabbi Jeff Falick. Happy anniversary to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Joseph Balzol, everybody. Well, on the 20th, though, you should do it in Ladino and Yiddish. You have 10 years to learn that.
I'll need some help on that.
We talked about Freddie DeCordova. This is Doc Severin to my... I don't want to say I'm Carson. I'm the guy who took Carson's place on Tuesday night when he didn't want to come in. All right, let's get into a Shabbos-y spirit. I hope the challah helped. That was baked by Arthur. So if the word didn't get a... All right, enough of this. Enough of this. Unlike Carson, I don't just do a monologue. I help us to welcome Shabbat. As the sun descends and the shadows lengthen, the distractions of the day give way to the stillness of night. It is time now for us to see, not with our eyes, but with our hearts and minds. As the day gives way to evening, it is time for us to welcome Shabbat. Charlie and Suzanne, if you will.
Baruch haor ba'olam. Baruch haor ba'adam. Baruch haor ba'shalom. Ba'shalom. Baruch haor. Baruch haor b'Shabbat.
Suzanne, don't go too far. Suzanne, don't go too far. You're the next reader.
Let us endeavor to find still moments, quiet spaces within to refresh ourselves, moments without ceaseless questions or inner debates, when we meditate only on goodness. Let us endeavor to nurture courage, recalling moments of strength. Let us remember days of fortitude and the power that we found. Let us endeavor to turn to light, to feel the warmth of a loving touch, our faces and fingers outstretched alive, alive to each other.
kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabla, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabla, lecha dodi likrat kala,
b'nei Shabbat nekabla, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki et habracha hi mevi'ah, v'simcha b'rina u'v'tzohola, b'nei Shabbat nekabla, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabla,
lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabla.
Shabbat Shalom, crowd.
Shabbat
I always say
shalom.
that, I think. There are times when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. When we gather on Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are times when we exploit nature as if we were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. When we gather on Shabbat, we consider our true place on this planet. There are times when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. When we gather on Shabbat, we remind ourselves that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. Let us embrace this moment, a Shabbat gathering to unite, to learn, and to better ourselves.
Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, Mishnotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, Mishnotecha Yisrael. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habraka, mekor habraka. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, Mishnotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, Mishnotecha Yisrael.
May we strive to lead loving, compassionate lives with our hearts, with our wisdom, and with our actions. These words we inscribe in our innermost being, aspiring to practice them day and night, teaching them diligently to our children through our words and especially through our deeds, so that the next generations may learn to revere and celebrate life.
תקוותי, תקוותי בי, איפה כוחי, כוחי בי, וגם בך, וגם בך, איפה כוחי, כוחי בי, וגם בך, וגם בך. Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you.
The transforming power of love, the redeeming power of compassion, the healing power of forgiveness, these endure in every age. The joy which comes from sharing, the strength which comes from striving, the nourishment which comes from nature, these endure in every age.
The sanctity of life, the value of truth, the primacy of justice, these endure in every age. Amidst never-ending change, may we have the wisdom to know and to cherish those teachings which endure for all time.
נפתח לנו שערי צדק, חן וחסד ורחמים. נפתח לנו שערי צדק, חן וחסד ורחמים. זה השער לשלום, נפתח לנו ונבוא בם. זה השער לשלום, נפתח לנו ונבוא בם. נפתח לנו שערי צדק, חן וחסד ורחמים. נפתח לנו שערי צדק, חן וחסד ורחמים.
Don't merely expect to find or to believe that life is worthwhile. Make it worthwhile. Don't merely see life whole, make it whole. Not knowing which should come first, to improve oneself or to improve the world, we end up doing neither. Actually, the only way to improve the world is by improving oneself, and the only way to improve oneself is by improving the world.
לא עליך למלאכה לגמור, לא עליך לגמור, לא עליך המלאכה לגמור, לא עליך לגמור, ולא אתה בן חורי להיבטל ממנה, ולא אתה בן חורי, ולא אתה בן חורי להיבטל ממנה, ולא אתה בן חורי. לא עליך המלאכה לגמור, לא עליך לגמור,
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when, to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then goodness encompasses our lives and we can begin to change the world.
Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ve'ahavta l'reacha, l'reacha kamoka, Zel gadol, gadol b'Torah, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ve'ahavta l'reacha, l'reacha kamoka, Zel gadol, gadol b'Torah, Amar Rabbi Akiva.
On February 14th, 1990, as I'm sure by now you've memorized that date, as the first deep space probe Voyager 1 left our planetary neighborhood for the fringes of the solar system, engineers turned it around for one last look at its home planet, now 4 billion miles away. It was at Carl Sagan's suggestion, and he wrote this: "Look at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Na'aseh shalom, shalom ba'olam. Na'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol ha'olam ve'imru shalom. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol Shalom, Na'aseh
this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. Tonight, our well wishes are extended to these members of our community and to their loved ones, to Nitzan Bengal, Ruthie Goldman, Ruth Moltz, Mary Monahan, Rabbi Peter Schweitzer, and Jim Walker. And as we do each week, if there's someone you're thinking about, please share. Anybody over here? Anybody on this side of the room? Barbara? Thank you. Did we miss anyone at all? Thank you. Anyone else? May all who suffer know that they are not alone, that we are there. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a refuah shlema, a complete recovery, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits.
Makom hakoach betocheinu, mekorot habracha me'evrotenu. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Shalom. Mekom hakoach betocheinu, mekorot halakha me'evrotenu. May those in need of healing know refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Shalom.
In memoriam. Death is real. In the world of changing nature, it is inevitable. It may be postponed, but it cannot be avoided. Loved ones do not pass away. They do not escape the rhythm of life. They die. But they leave their gifts. We still bask in their love. We still use their instruction. We are still inspired by their deeds. We still linger in the memories of their style. Immortality is very intimate. It is part of our mind. It is as close as our power to remember. In the real world, death is part of the drama of life. So is the loving tribute of remembrance.
Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Tonight, our community continues to mourn the recent death of Douglas Mann of blessed memory. As tonight, we also observe the yahrzeits of Arlene Goldberg, Hannah Remnick, Arnold Winchell, and Rabbi Sherwin Wine. If there's someone whom you're thinking about tonight whom you've lost, and you wish to remember again as we did before. Thank you. Anybody else on this side? Yes? Bruce? Tony Bennett died today, yes. Lynn? Thank you. Anybody? Yes? Did we miss anyone? Go ahead, Diana. Thank you. Anyone at all that we missed? We say, Yehi Zikram Livracha. May their memories be a blessing, by which we hope that as we go through our lives and they are no longer by our side, that their memories and happy times together will still reside within. If you can do so comfortably, I invite you to please rise as together we recite our humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. Nit gadal v'nit kadash beruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May justice and peace permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. Before I begin on my reflections, I want to say a few words in tribute to Rabbi Wine, whose yahrzeit we observed tonight. So many of you knew him personally. So many of you knew him personally, and there's a part of me, I should say, that envies that I didn't have the opportunity to know him. And it's especially when I hear the personal stories that each of you share, the lifetime of love and laughter and fun and learning that you had together. And then I reflect upon the fact that he called me. I will never forget that day in 2007. I got a call while working in the JCC, probably wearing shorts or something, running around the summer camp. And he talked to me for just a few minutes and said he had heard about me and I was interested in what they were doing up here. And we was getting ready to go away. And I suppose that was the trip that he didn't return from, and promised that we would speak later. But as I've often also said, there is a part of me that is grateful that, or at least believes that, my not knowing him, I think, makes a greater statement about his legacy. Because my being here is just one small piece of evidence of the power of his leadership and his message, of how it spread throughout the world, and that you didn't have to know Rabbi Wine personally to have benefited, and for us to all continue to benefit, those who didn't know him, from his message. I think sometimes that's easy to forget here in the Mother Shul in Detroit. We look at our congregation, the founding congregation, and we judge everything by what's happening here in our movement. And that's fair, but we are also, I think it's important to remember, subject to things that are unique to Detroit. And while our community, and I say this very happily and with a great deal of relief, and I'll talk about that in a few moments, is still going very strong, and we're definitely attracting new people, absolutely no question. Like every single synagogue in this town, we're not as big as we once were, although the shrinkage, much, much less here, which is something I'm also very pleased about. Head-counting Jews in Southeast Michigan is not the story of the success of humanistic Judaism. And even though we can be very proud that we have continued to be successful, and that we are, as I say, numbers-wise ahead of many synagogues, and certainly by a factor of percentage, when it comes to Rabbi Wine's brilliant vision of humanistic Judaism, well, let's just say that, like he himself did, it is sprouting up and going everywhere. It has not receded. It has become much stronger than many of us ever expected. We are rarely forgotten anymore by the major movements. And we are still, as a synagogue movement, very small compared to them. But numbers are not the only thing that matter. I remember when conservative Judaism was the largest Jewish denomination in the world, and now it's not even close. What really matters is that people hear our message and that we grow through the truths that Rabbi Wine espoused. through, in fact, some of the language that he himself invented, humanistic Judaism. Who would have thought of such a word, such a phrase to describe a branch of Judaism? There were so many other suggestions, and he landed on that one. We are growing where new communities come into formation in countries that had never heard of humanistic Judaism, in digital spaces all over the place. Just look at our various Facebook groups, the number of I don't know what to call them really, untethered humanistic Jews, general admission types that are members of the society who live all over the country, all over the world. Some of you have been on classes with me where we have members of people who have joined or support us in Scotland, regular attendees in California and Colorado and Massachusetts, in addition to those of us who are here. That all started in the pandemic. And I know many of them are watching us tonight because we always look at those numbers, and there's always at least 100 that have seen us at some point throughout the week, and sometimes many more, as many as 1,000 check in with us during the holidays. And that's just us. That doesn't count Secular Synagogue, led by our Rabbi Denise Handlarski, Kol Chadash by our Rabbi Adam Shalom. It doesn't count the fact that in Israel, Rabbis for Human Rights, one of the most respected rabbinical organizations in the world, has as its president a humanistic rabbi. Yes, really. I said that too. That I was able to continue in my career as a rabbi, in any role as a rabbi, to be honest, is entirely due to his singular vision. So even as we experience humanistic Judaism from our historically important vantage point, it's important to remember that through his work, Rabbi Wine's legacy not only does live on, but will live on, continues to live on. Through his books, his teachings, his insights. For those of us who did not know him personally, and that number will, of course, as nature has it, only grow, he lives on and enriches us and provides us with the space to build upon his work and ideas each and every day. I know that for those of you who knew him and loved him personally, that his memory is always a blessing to you. But it is a different kind of blessing to those of us who cannot imagine what our Jewish lives and identities would have been without him. And so as I turn to my reflections, please know that I and all of us who learn from him every day and from his disciples and his disciples' disciples, we remain acutely aware of that. Yehi zichro livracha. May his memory always be the blessing that it is now, and that we know it can be because of the truth of his words. So, to segue, the idea for tonight came from Melanie and I talking about, hey, I've got a bunch of talks I'm giving in July. You have any ideas? She said, isn't it like close to an anniversary for you? Maybe you should talk about some of your reflections. And I said, sure, that sounds easy. I'll do that. And then it turned into a bar mitzvah. I don't know how that happened. But it's really, I think, a celebration for everybody. And not that it's so fantastic that I'm here. There were other good people, too. And I'm relieved to say that some of them got ordained after me. So that's a good thing. Because I could not be any happier. This place really did save my career. I think that you know, and I'll only share very briefly with you what I was doing before this. I had spent 11 mostly very happy years as a Hillel director at the University of Illinois, where my children were born and where I made my first married home, really, my first family home. And that was always and will continue to be a special place to me, that state and that place. But then after that, at the University of Miami, where I grew up, no, I didn't grow up at the university. I grew up a couple miles south, but not that great a university anyway. At least it wasn't when I was a kid. And then, you know, some things happened. I came out of the closet. My wife and I decided that after a long time of not really addressing this, maybe now the time had come before the children had children. And amicably we separated, but it also meant that I needed to find a new job because this was not going to work for my children if I was working with college students every day and every night. So I was fortunate enough to find a position at a JCC. And let me tell you, it was a humbling experience. The people, I should add, at the agency were terrific. The work was, well, let's just say, I thought I had left that behind when I was the assistant to the rabbi's intern in high school. But you know, that's a good way to learn what it means to really get down with people. So, you know, it meant shorts and summer camp and setting up displays and arranging flowers and vacuuming up unmentionable things in the back of a theater that I ran and an art gallery that I supervised, and spending probably 400 hours programming a computer to sell tickets to shows that I then would go out into the parking lot to direct the traffic for. So you didn't know this stuff about me, did you? I missed getting to meet Leonard Nimoy because I was directing traffic that day. By the time I got into the theater, he was gone. So when I found this movement, thanks to Rabbi Wine in 2007, and then began to explore it, it certainly wasn't with the hope of a job. I was doing that job because I wanted to be with my children, in case that wasn't clear. And that was the most wonderful thing, because I think those of you who know me know that my family, Arthur, and my 2 daughters, and now my 2 magnificent grandchildren, all of our grandchildren are magnificent in equal degrees. Just each of our grandchildren is just a little bit better than everybody else's too. That's just the truth. And because of that, I was tethered. But you know, they were graduating high school, going off to college. My other one was just been married. They were moving themselves. Florida wasn't such an attractive place after a while. And so when this opportunity became available, I didn't want it at all. I didn't know they were going to leave. And when they told me they would, I applied. And Lynn Master was so welcoming, and Suzanne, who coordinated, or Lynn coordinated the committee, but Suzanne, who consulted. You guys did a professional job, and you know, I put on the suit and everything else, and and I had been here many times. I had been coming here already for years to the meetings for the SHJ or for the AHR, and I had already had. I remember I went to the foreman's house one time, and I got to meet some of their friends too. But it was really an incredible thing to have the opportunity to be asked to come here. And it was unbelievably overwhelming to leave a very different culture behind. I don't know if you know what it is to live in Miami. It is a different culture. It's a different Jewish culture, and it's a different culture, period. We used to say that Miami was conveniently located adjacent to the United States of America. And now the entire state has fallen off. I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm not going back until the Grand Wizard is not the governor anymore. And I came up here, and I have to say, and I've said this a million times, I may have to go somewhere else for retirement, because you know the kids come first, but this is the best place I have ever lived. I love it here. I just love Michigan. I am not pandering. I thought I was going to hate it. I mean, we bought, what are those overalls that are like this thick, the Cartwells or something? We were buying that. I remember we were going to winter stores thinking we were just going to be wearing mucklucks and and it turned out not to be like that at all. It's wonderful. We love up north. We go up there for Thanksgiving, and we love Southeast. We love the whole state. It's just a great place when I leave here. And the things that we've done in this state, and our congregation has been part of it. The changes we've made, the lack of gerrymandering, which our congregation fought so hard for. The right to reproductive freedom, which our congregation fought so hard for. The social justice things that this congregation did. I'm doing this out of order. I'm not even looking at my notes. That we did, that you all jumped on board for, to declare ourselves a sanctuary. That the symbolism of that alone, at that moment in history, to go out in that freezing, horrible sleet, cold, and snow on that day in 2017 in January, and to stand out there for hours and hours with signs, dozens and dozens and dozens of congregants holding pictures of immigrants that were their parents and grandparents' parents, and the pictures of the St. Louis. All of this, when we adopted the Syrian family, when we took on I think, Fran, you were responsible for organizing this in part. In the middle of the summer of 2020, the showing we had, unfortunately I wasn't one of them because I had a blowout in my internet, but when they did the drive-through Black Lives Matter and the marches for science that we were at, and all of the things that this congregation has done, it makes me so proud to be part of this congregation and this state. That's where I started. I started at the state. I'm going to go back to that. You know, when I first got here, I really didn't. I thought I knew what to expect because I knew how many, 1,000 rabbis? I knew a ton of rabbis. And they all, some of them were great. Some of them I wondered why it was so hard and why they were complaining all the time. I still wonder that in some cases. But I didn't really understand what they went through. I didn't. It was very, very difficult for me to imagine what it would be like to bury so many people, which has been a harsh reality of this congregation. Anne-Marie frequently tells me that Rabbi Wine said to her on more than one occasion that the people that he was marrying back when were the people that someday a successor would come along to bury, and unfortunately I think that has been, at least in large number, myself. It, of course, has not taken away from the great joy I had over the years in getting to know these people. And sometimes to get to know someone near the end of their life, even if it's just 4, 5, 6 years, is a very special time, because it's a time when they have gained, this is one of my high holiday talks, when they have gained wisdom and perspective, and I had that to learn from, and are leaving a legacy. That's another high holiday talk, by the way. You can see where my brain is these days. When I first began to give my talks, I remember I decided to pick my 4 sort of humanistic role models, or proto-humanistic role models. So I picked Baruch Spinoza, and I picked Maimonides, and Mordecai Kaplan, Rabbi Wine, of course, and that one was the most fun to do because I got to tell a story you guys didn't know about, something he had done, and you wouldn't have known if you weren't a Reform Jew because it affected the Reform movement, but that's another time. Maybe I'll do it again. And I asked Becca Smith, who was our wonderful Sunday school director at the time, and Anne-Marie to come in to hear a talk that I had just prepared. It was going to be my first one on Maimonides. And I will tell you, I probably didn't understand the talk myself. And Sheldon Clemist, I don't know if any of you remember him. Sheldon Clemist, who was a wonderful man, and we became close, and I became close with Inez, and unfortunately buried both of them. He called me on the Monday morning, and he said, "You're doing great, but just, just take it down, just a little bit. Take it down." And I said, I got you. And I never did any of those kinds of talks again. I might have done long talks, I might have done boring talks, interesting talks, I don't know. But I never tried to explain the medieval rationalist philosophical point of view in 25 minutes on Shabbat. That much I learned. I also learned that, there was going to be some things different about this congregation. As I said, when I was at the JCC and even the Hillel, I wasn't a very public speaker, a public figure. I did speak from time to time, but nobody really knew who I was. I was just there for the kids and the cleaning up of the back room in the theater. So the people were lovely. I always say that. Some of the nicest and most wonderful people I ever knew. But many of you from time to time, you ask me, a friend did today, how my health is. And I've been struggling with my weight for 45 years. This happens to be one of those things that you can't hide, right? If I was an alcoholic, which I am not, you wouldn't, maybe you would. But I think that those are kind of things that are easier to hide. But you've watched me go up and you've watched me go down and every other kind of thing. First of all, let me reassure you, I'm with a doctor. We're trying to figure it out. It's 45 years of this, and I will, and I'm okay. I'm as healthy as you can be, considering. But that's hard, sometimes. That makes you a little bit vulnerable. But it also reminds you that, everybody's going through something. Everybody's struggling with something. And that's an important thing for a rabbi to know, and it's an important thing for me to remember. And I try to be, in this case, humble about that, about what I go through, because then the next day, who knows, I'm going to receive a call, as I have, from someone who's young, who has experienced a tragedy. And you all know what I'm talking about, because that happens in every community. One of the most rewarding things has been the ability to do some of those rabbinical tasks that I wasn't able to do before, and not just because I worked at a JCC. It was because I didn't have the point of view that people expected when they came to a rabbi. I wasn't going to tell them the things that you already know the other rabbis say. They're in a better place, or it all happens for a reason, or all that kind of stuff that we hear. From the very beginning, when I was confronted with people who were grieving, I realized, or struggling with anything, that a couple of things were true. Number one, I'm not a therapist, and so I recommend people, and thankfully I have wonderful congregants like Bruce Hillenberg who can give me the names of people to recommend, and they're great names, by the way. I don't know if I told you that. But also, that a humanistic point of view is not going to be the same kind of point of view, and because I would be more honest to myself and more authentic about my own beliefs, and they were coming to me for that, it made it in some ways so much easier to do. There's something very unique about humanistic Judaism in that regard, where we're not giving people pretend answers, we're giving them realism, but we're also giving them comfort and community and a reminder that they're not alone. It's just that the not aloneness isn't up there, it's out here. It's all of us. There were other things that I was surprised that I got to do here. And I think it actually turns out to be a good thing for a rabbi. And apparently it's not that unusual for clergy in smaller congregations to, for instance, design and maintain a website. Some of you may not know that I do that. That's my work, for better or worse, to issue and write and do the whole newsletter every week. That's how I keep on top of what's going on here. When you get that, and it says Rabbi Falick did this, or Rabbi Falick will speak on that, Rabbi Falick wrote that stuff. And then the commentary, which actually Ned encouraged me, why don't you write a commentary every week? And I thought, oh my God, do I need one more thing to do? And it turned out to be wonderful, because since I don't give a sermon the way that some congregations do, this became a wonderful outlet. And I love it when people write to me and say, you got it right on. Or occasionally, what the hell is wrong with you? How come you don't understand the basic fact about this issue? There was Spinoza, which is what we decided to name our Sunday school. And I can tell you that as we were naming it, I was at the end of my rope with the entire idea of Sunday school. I think the Jewish community should have eliminated the idea of Sunday school sometime back in the 19th century, or at least the 20th century, because it wasn't working anymore. Nobody's coming to school on Sunday. They're ripping themselves away from whatever else that they want to do to come to pretend that they want to be here, to open a textbook, to read out loud like they do on Tuesday morning. It wasn't working. And what's more is that our kids weren't coming on a regular enough basis so that we could not teach a curriculum as if a curriculum was possible in 26 Sundays during the year, broken up by holidays and other things we needed to do. So we changed it. Melanie Goldberg has been my partner for the last couple of years in Spinoza, and now it's family education. You know, the families come. And they sit around tables and they eat the bagels and they schmooze and they get to know each other and they form a community of their own. And then we sing, and then everybody learns about some topic with me. And there's interrelated things, but you know, if you weren't there the week before, it's okay. We're starting over again. There's a million Jewish topics, and you know what? They show up now. The absenteeism is less of an issue, and weirdly enough and ironically enough. And then the kids go their way, and they have some fun with our facilitating teachers, and I take the parents, and we maybe follow up on things. There's a lot of holidays. And by the way, we are looking for facilitators for teachers for this. And you don't have to prepare lesson plans. It's not how it works anymore. You'll be learning along with the rest of us. So if you're interested in that, or you know someone who is, please let me know. We still need at least one, I think. The bar-mitzvahs, you know, how long I just let other people do the tutoring. And I finally said, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't need other people to do the tutoring. I need a relationship with these children. And so now I get to do that, and it is wonderful. And I will tell you that the tools we have now with Zoom and that kind of thing, that makes it a lot easier. The kids and I can spend a half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes every week, depending on where we are in the process, talking about big topics, big things, values, what kind of people they want to be, why they're interested in this topic or that person, that role model, or whatever the humanistic or Jewish idea it is that they're speaking about. And then to join them on the bima, having had this journey with them, that's something that I really was so happy we could make happen. And it's happening now, and it allows me to get to know the families even better. And I think it's helping with retention, too. We had a little bit of a lull in our youth group because of the pandemic. And then just this year, some of these kids that I worked with are asking, so what can we do after? So we might have a little bit of a youth group coming back. It's making a reemergence. And then, of course, are all the things that you all expect a rabbi to do. This holidays, working with leadership, going to meetings, giving my 2 cents. And it's really been extraordinary because I found my voice here. And I didn't find it because I didn't know I had things I cared about. I found it because certain individuals said, use it. Use it. You have this pulpit, literally, this pulpit, to say things that are important to you, like the social justice agenda. And it'll resonate, and it did. So I continue to do all the other rabbinical things, the teaching and that kind of thing, and I love the classes, even though my classes are still on Zoom. It's hard to wean them off when they live in Colorado. I can't invite them to fly in every week. I have been blessed by extraordinary leadership here, and it has not waned, not for a moment. And many of you guys are here, which is also, by the way, I don't know what it says about what, but it certainly says a lot about you, that you continue to come. When many presidents simply, throughout my entire experience with synagogues and agencies, they just walk off a cliff and disappear, and that's it. We never see them again after the prayer. Somehow we're just Jewish agencies and organizations, president killers. But we have managed not to have that happen. And I want to thank my first 2 presidents, or Larry and Harriet are here, and you weren't so much together then, but to me, you always were this pair of leaders. When Charlie Paul took over at a moment that we desperately needed the leadership. Steve Blum, Paul Caradonna, Ned, of course, Greenberg, who just finished his 2 years. Was it only 2 years? It felt like we were like doing 5 years worth of stuff. Oh my gosh, from changing the name to all of the financial and membership changes that you made. And of course, Elaine, who is just wonderful. And there's so many other people. And I hope you'll forgive me if I don't mention individuals. Kathy, I see you. I love you, and you are somebody that I should also remember to acknowledge in leadership. But what it really is testimony to is the adherence that you have to the message. And that's something that's really interesting about this congregation that I never heard from any other rabbi, with a singular exception of the Orthodox friends I have, that our congregation actually believes in something. Orthodox rabbis tell me this all the time. Oh, you Reform Jews. They don't know I'm not. You Reform Jews, you Conservative Jews, you don't really believe in anything. It's just tradition for you. And then I tell them who I am and what I believe in. Now, many of these people are already longtime friends. But I kid with them that we are and we got some criticism for this, but Sherwin was right about it. We're the Orthodox of the progressives. Because our beliefs are very strong to us, and we do not step outside those beliefs to make anyone happy or mumble them or pretend that we don't have them. And that is enormously liberating for a community and for a rabbi. So many other things. This has given me an opportunity to obviously continue to be active with our movement. I'm not on the board anymore. Arthur's on the board. He's on the executive committee of the SHJ, but I just get to do the fun stuff, the editorial board of the magazine. I get to write articles about why I love Star Trek. Oh my God. What other movement would care about why I love Star Trek except the humanist community, knowing what humanists, the people who created that show, were. I get to be on the executive board of Freedom House, one of the most important and wonderful organizations that you all introduced me to. There are so many colleagues that I want to thank for these 10 years of teaching and learning from you. Anne-Marie, of course, who is my partner, my work wife. In that sense, I'm still straight, I guess, right? Becca Smith, who really did a wonderful job with what was increasingly becoming a thankless task of keeping a Sunday school together in an age and a period of Jewish history when maybe that needed to be rethought, and is being rethought, by the way. I don't know if I shared this. I was asked by the Michigan Board of Jewish Educators to write up our program, and they featured it in a newsletter to parents and I've been getting inquiries from that. to Wendy Janes, who got our financial house, the columns in order. Michelle Clevenger, who is the lovely voice that you all hear when you call. I've had wonderful musical partners. Maria and Ezra were great, but in Joseph, there he is. In Joseph, I have found my brother in song. There's a symbiosis there and what you do to these songs, thank you, and introducing and helping me bring in more. I have three very, very important mentors here. One is Suzanne Paul, who's with us tonight and with us very frequently, who gives me such advice and ever since the beginning has helped to guide me. Miriam Jairus, who was the very first humanistic Jew I ever met. It was when I was sitting all by myself on a bench out there in 2009, I think, having flown in for the colloquium. And Miriam, who's not with us tonight because she's traveling the world but she's traveling North America. But she sat down and she read me a children's book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. And I thought, this has got to be the strangest, and then I realized this is what she is. She's lovely and friendly. And then she became a person who helped me learn very deeply about humanistic Judaism. And Dr. Ron Aronson, who has been an intellectual hero of mine. And there are so many other teachers here too. And some of them have lent their education to me and also to all of you. Natan Fuchs, notably, and I'm sorry he's not here tonight because I want to thank him in person and always try to. The Shostakovich, is it? Beethoven? What is it? I think it's Strauss. I wouldn't know. I loved Vivace. I'm so happy classical music is back, but as you all know, not my thing. Natan Fuchs, Professor Fran Shore, what a role model and intellect, and thank you for your teaching and bringing your wisdom and your intellect here, and Dr. Bruce Hillenberg too, for you, and just brand new, the Musar and the lectures, and it's just, we're very fortunate to have brilliant people here, and there's so many more too, and I'm sorry I didn't mention everyone. You know, this is the thing when they're playing off the Academy Award winner, and they're like, wait, I forgot to thank my mother! And all you can see is, so, I don't, well, I want to be sure not to forget to thank Arthur, because Arthur's the one who keeps this going for me. Look, we survived a pandemic together, folks. We survived an earth-shattering, once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-century event, and this congregation stayed together on YouTube and Zoom and all those other kinds of things. Before I finish, I did want to acknowledge there's so many volunteers here that work so hard, but there were just a few who've won the Ellen Bogan Award that I wanted to note because I work specifically closely with them. Audrey Pleasant, Sandy Altman, Marty Bernstein, Greg Campo, Denise Parker, who, you know, the brilliance behind all of our fundraisers up until like 5 minutes ago. David Weeks, who does our streaming every week and just comes in and does it. And Alex Lumelski, and then finally just to relate back to that tragedy, because the tragedy that occurred here that affected me the most was the loss of somebody who was becoming a dear friend, Jerry Grodsky of blessed memory. So that's my reflections. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, Melanie, but I want to thank you all for acknowledging my work and supporting it and participating in it, and mostly for making sure that this thing called humanistic Judaism continues. This is not something to be taken lightly. Every important idea started with small groups of people. Every significant revolution started with small handfuls of people. And when you saw that the first generation had made its mark and set its word down on parchment or stone or whatever it was, and that people came afterwards and read those parchments and those pieces of stone and built upon them, then you realize that what we're doing here is not just of the moment, it is momentous. Thank you, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we're gonna, no, don't do that. You promised me 10 years ago I made a rule there would be no more standing after I taught. You forget everything I taught you. We had an agreement. Some of you are too new to remember that. No standing for a rabbi's talk. At my funeral, you can stand. Okay, we're going to do this beautiful song. I picked all the readings tonight. They were ones I really liked the most. And the songs, too, that Joseph and I have been
There's a
introducing.
song that you forgot, though.
So-
There's, I think you know the words to the song. And if you like to, you can stand, too. It goes like this. Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Okay, stop. You know what that's
Happy
from?
anniversary.
You know what that's from?
Happy anniversary.
Oh, dear Lord.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
To all of us. Seriously, stop. You know that's from the Flintstones.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Could you tell us about the what do you call it? It's inside the piano.
The what do you call that's
Yeah, those
inside the
things.
piano?
Yeah, what are they? The
The
stoppers?
thing. The stoppers.
The stoppers.
The stoppers.
Or we could sing the closing song and go have some food.
Well, yeah, we could do that. Well, you know, that's actually a good idea because people are saying, "What's with the piano? You know, what's wrong with the piano?" It's like, here it's gone. It's what are you doing to it? Well, these things called dampers.
Dampers.
The dampers are what stop the sound. So if you think of a piano as a harp on its side, the harpists, for them to stop the sound, they have to use their hands to stop the sound, otherwise it just rings. These things, they rest on top of the strings and they stop the sound. So anything that has a lot of moving parts, there's always stuff that goes wrong.
So this was by way of illustration that I can get you to stop doing anything by asking you about the dampers. Okay, can we sing damply and stoppingly? Thank you, Joseph. And he takes such good care of this, like a baby, and it's worth it because of his talent.
May we know peace as we go on our way. May we be guided by love. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we abide in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to everyone. May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.